Welcome back to the Assertive Podcast. I'm Erica.
I'm Jess.
And we are licensed professional counselors in Texas, reviewing Am I the Asshole Reddit threads to help you learn skills for communication, healthy boundary setting, and assertive interpersonal functioning. Today, we're going to be talking about the power struggle in parenting and how to handle resistance. We're going to be doing this by reviewing a post titled, Am I the Asshole for Asking My Daughter What College She Decided On?
So the author, who is a 55 male, writes, so today I'm returning with my daughter, who's a 17-year-old female, from a final college visit. We flew. Yesterday after the visit, we were having lunch and she said she'd made up her mind. I asked which school. She said she's going to have fun with this and not tell us. I texted my wife and said she had a decision, but she wasn't telling us. My wife's comment was, we spent a great deal of money with trips and airfare and hotels and meals, etc. for all of this. We visited multiple schools last spring, and after she was accepted at 5, she narrowed them down to 3, which we've not visited. Today at the airport during the layover, she said she thinks it's fun that she got on her nerves about this and doesn't plan on telling us until maybe at the end of the week. I explained that I don't think that's going to fly, as I'm trying to plan where I'm going to be moving money around for the down payment, etc. We're paying for her undergrad and maybe some grad school, if not all of it. She says now I'm just guilting her and she doesn't appreciate it. I've explained that I need to plan, and the longer she waits, the housing queue becomes an issue. Technically, she hasn't told me first, but the majority of the students get in the queue as soon as possible to be considered for the best housing. I got no response, and now I'm getting the silent treatment. I didn't threaten anything, but I don't think she'll understand the ramifications of this decision. I just don't understand why I'm the bad guy all of a sudden. Am I the asshole for asking about this decision?
What are your initial thoughts here?
I think this little 7-year-old got a little carrot to dangle, and she's just poking at her dad to make him mad. Yeah, I think it sounds like that's an exciting thing. They've obviously invested like a lot of resources into this, so I think it feels like she probably has this big kind of unveiling that she's wanting to do, and is making it a little bit of the game, and the dad is not down for that so much.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first impressions of it?
Honestly, my first impression was a dad is being a bit childish here.
Kind of a buzzkill.
Yes. He even wrote, she doesn't plan on telling us until maybe the end of the week. So not even a full week, just the end of this week. And you need to know right this very second. Like, mom and dad aren't even in the same spot. You guys are in the middle of traveling. Maybe she wants to tell everybody at once. Mm-hmm. And so for dad to get so butthurt about this and go to Reddit and write about it,
yeah,
like, you don't have the patience to wait till the end of the week?
I bet if she hadn't made a decision, he wouldn't be hounding her in the layover, being like, you need to know right now. Like, she happened to mention it in like a teasing kind of way, but he has this like artificial sense of urgency about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, the way she probably responded probably did egg on some of his reaction.
Yeah.
But you're 55, you're the adult here. Your brain is fully developed, and you're dealing with a 17-year-old.
And even, I doubt that he's going to go pay for student housing right that very second. Like, all the action points that he's talking about, like, they're not going to get resolved right then. And if she wants to dangle the carrot and she doesn't get in the housing that she wants, again, her consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think he just wanted to know because he wanted to know.
Yeah,
it wasn't really
absolutely.
An emergency there. Yeah, it's like an emergency. Oh boy. In my case, I don't really hear a lot of parents being confused about like why they're the bad guy. Do you hear that often?
No. Although, to be fair, my caseload doesn't have teenagers. They either have littles.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Or they have college age.
Yeah. I have one right now who has a teenager. But I would think if her son said, basically, you're being a bad guy, I think that she would say, maybe I'm doing something that's a bit dickish. I don't know. I think of like you've known somebody for 17 years and they kind of say, hey, you're kind of being mean. You'd say, hey, I've known you for a long time. maybe something's going on there. So I think that has a little lack of awareness of maybe how he's like presenting, you know.
Mhm.
So I think
Yeah.
it's not like she's trying to have fun maybe a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah. I would think so. I mean, it sounds like it's fun if you're traveling and you're on just you and your dad and you're going to visit places. I imagine it being fun. And he's just kind of like being, buzzkill vibes from this guy for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from a, and I think, I don't really know if the word resistance is even used a ton in our field anymore because it implies some sense of like a client blame a little bit, but resistance in terms, how we use that kind of clinically is basically saying a client is hesitant to make changes or they're not open to some kind of therapeutic feedback is generally how, or that's how I would define resistance. But I think there's some of that going on in here with the teenager. What are your thoughts about like resistant and what do you do with that?
Yeah, I have the same definition, and I think that could even be applied outside of the therapy room. Really, we could also throw in synonyms like there's conflict, like we're on opposing sides of an issue. But yeah, I see that here in the post where dad wants to know right now, daughter's wanting to wait some time to share the news. So we have two kind of conflicting, I wouldn't even say needs at this point because this isn't a need issue. We have two opposing wants is how I would say that.
So just kind of general like friction maybe is how you would define it. Okay. So how do you deal with that as a therapist, or how would you direct clients to deal with that if they're encountering that in their relationships outside of therapy?
Yeah, I like to use the wall analogy that we got from Candy. Another shout out to Candy. You guys
she's gonna start taking percentages of this. She's gonna like copywriting her.
Yeah, we're using what you taught us, Candy.
Yep.
So she taught us, she was our licensing supervisor. So she gave us the analogy of a wall. And typically when we have these kind of friction situations, each of you are on an opposing side of the wall and you guys are both pushing it. But because you're applying equal pressure and equal force in opposing directions, the wall's not actually moving. So in order to get the wall to move, us as the therapist, we need to be the one to step away from the wall, figure out a way to move over to the other side and push with the client.
Yeah.
And we could change those roles, right? If it's parent-child, you are the parent, you're the grown-up. Take a couple steps back, look at the big picture, move around to the other side of the wall and push it with them.
Yeah, I remember when we were remember actually where I was, this is how impactful it was. I remember where I was sitting and like the room setting where I learned that, right? Because I saw background for you, for this, listeners, for me and Erica, we were forensically involved, we'll say substance use treatment, which means somebody
we were providing the treatment. We were not in treatment together.
I mean, it was a learning experience all around. I took a lot of treatments. But yeah, so clients had some kind of drug charge or, something related to that. So nobody wanted to be there, right? Nobody's showing up to our facility on a whim. They're court ordered there. Nobody's happy. And so, day one client walks in of like, this is some bullshit, man. I got to do this for the next 6 months. This fucking sucks. I'm not able to have a job. The judge in this, and I got such and such. And so, when me and Erica are young therapists, what Candy gave us permission to do is basically be like, yeah, this sucks. Like, I wouldn't like this either. I bet you're really agitated, and by just like leaning and pushing in the wall, there doesn't give them anything to push back against. So like there's no government to fight there at that point, right? There's no nothing to rebel against or to topple against because you're all on the same team. So by just getting on that side of the wall and like pushing that with them, it helps people feel validated and also like removes these power struggles. Yeah, so that was really helpful, right? Because then it takes away the ammo. So now it's like, we're all on the same team. Nobody's disagreeing that this isn't fun. I'm not going to try to talk you out of your feelings. You're not in a spot to be open to that anyway. It's like, I might as well join you. That's going to help our relationship. So that was how that came out in the context of like forensically involved substance use treatment. How would you, if say the author, the dad is your client, how would you direct him to practice that with his daughter practically?
Yeah. I have two different suggestions for this particular situation because it is, to me, kind of this low priority. Not that her college education is not a priority, but like nothing big is going to happen if you wait the 7 days that she wants to tell you.
Mhm.
You could even, in this situation, not even try and push the wall with her. You could just simply walk away and drop the issue. She does say part of this is like she's getting a kick out of how agitated you are. If you're no longer agitated and you're like, all right, tell us when you want.
Gonna lose. She's not gonna be as interested in like poking at you.
Correct.
Yeah, if you're not reacting.
So a lot of issues, especially in like parent-child dynamic or even in relationships, we do get into these power struggles. And a lot of times we don't need a power differential. Your child's older, she's 17, she's about to move away from home and attend college somewhere else. Like you can let some of this power dynamic go a little bit. Like walk away from this particular issue.
So you just say, cool, tell us when you're ready?
Yeah.
Is that what you would say?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think
Okay.
even a step further, part of his concern is moving money. You could communicate that, and you're communicating some expectations there. All right, it'll take like 5 business days to get the money moved from your education plan account to our bank account, and then probably another day to log into the school system and put that deposit down. From whatever day you tell us, it'll probably take us about a week or so to get that money moved. So just let us know when you're ready to.
So you're like, these are the consequences of the delay. Should you choose to delay, this is what you can expect, but I'm not going to be the one to push this timeline.
Mm-hmm.
To put that ownership on her, basically.
Yeah. I told you like how many days it would take. Like I'm going to need like a full 7 business days because I'm not going to like drop everything I'm doing the second you tell me.
And so for dad to be able, because dad also has to have thought that through. Dad sounds like he was not thinking that through at the time. So
he just wanted to know. He was probably so stressed and he was so ready to be done with this shit.
He's been hanging out with a 17-year-old girl for perhaps 7 days, multiple days now at this point. Yeah. So maybe once, so maybe for dad to be able to kind of think through consequentially, once he realized, oh, she's dangling a carrot, he could have just paused, said, you know what, I have a sense of urgency. Is that true? Probably not really a sense of urgency. What would be the impact? Okay.
Yeah.
She's 17. She's not going to know. I'm going to tell her what's going to happen, and then she can do what she wants to do.
Instead, he got his wife to co-sign his agitation because she couldn't, even her being separate, and maybe she's stressed because she's not in the middle of this decision making. She's not on the trip. She's maybe at home with other kids, right? So she's getting the text, and if you had like stopped a second and been like, all right,
not that big of a deal. She's messing with you.
Like, we'll know it by the end of the week. It's fine.
Yeah.
But instead, she's like, what? We've spent all of this money. How dare she not tell us the second she decides?
Yeah, they're both like caught up in that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that'd have been one way to respond. Would have just been to kind of let it drop.
Yeah, we're just walking away from the wall and let her push it wherever she wants to push it, whether it's somewhere productive or she's pushing that shit off a cliff. Let her do it.
Look how stupid she looks pushing that wall. What an idiot.
Well, eventually, if there's no force on the other side, they usually lose interest because it's like, well, what am I doing just walking in circles pushing this wall?
Yeah.
They're eventually going to walk away from the wall also.
Yeah, so true. It's not that fun to push.
Yeah. So then if we want to move around and push the wall with her, what I think that would look like would be, cool, that's fine. If you need any help and like however you want to tell us, if you want to make this special or you need anything from me or mom, let us know. If you want to like have a special dinner and you need us to make sure nobody is going out with their friends that night, we can do that for you. Just give us the date. Right. So now we're on her side. And then also saying, but again, I'll take like 7 business days for us to get the money moved from the savings account to the checking account and then logged into the system and get that deposit made. So just keep that in mind whenever you're planning, whatever date you pick. Make sure we have enough time to get that done.
Okay. I like that.
And now we're not threatening like, well, you know, it's going to take 7 days. I just want to make sure you're aware of that and you factor that into your plan.
Especially like, if she is like we said, poking the bear in the power struggle, the more on opposite sides of the wall that we get, the more satisfaction and more energy that's going to put behind that. Just like amplifying that situation. Yeah, we got an edit update. So the author said, left on what is most likely our final all-family spring break trip on Thursday. We got up to our departure city to spend the night before our flight the next morning. In the hotel room, she got up and she said she had a big announcement. Then she pulled out t-shirts and started whipping them out to each of us. Their shirts were from her selected school. Her mother and I gave her a huge hug and congratulations of how proud we are of her. So happy ending. I had already said I wasn't trying to guilt her or make her feel bad about not telling us back when I originally posted. Yesterday, while we were waiting at the airport, we got her registered. So she was planning a reveal for that, you know?
Yeah. She just sounded like she wanted like some control. She wanted it to be exciting and fun.
I personally don't find bullying kind of things to be fun. Like, I don't find poking at people to be something that I feel like is fun. I know some people like kind of teasing playfulness, maybe to be kind of silliness. If you know that your dad is agitated and the point of secrecy is to have a fun reveal, I think she could have communicated in a way that was a little bit less irritating, you know? Just like, hey, I made up my mind. It's a big decision. I'm excited. And at the end of this week, I'm going to let you guys know what I thought. As opposed to like purposely, I think, irritating to him. I think that's going to make the reveal less fun too. So I think she could have maybe done a little bit better at, you know, making the surprise more surprising as opposed to irritating.
Yeah. Or just communicating a portion of her plan, even if it's as small as I'd rather wait till everybody's together.
Right. Simple.
Like, you don't even have to tell people you have this big surprise.
Don't even say that you made up your mind. Just surprise them. You know, so they would have been just as proud of you or just as enthusiastic if you had surprised them with a shirt. But she's 17. She's learning how surprises work. I mean, God, it was just her first like big kind of news to drop. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you're cheeking, like, oh, when you went to plan a surprise party, you did it wrong. But I think that this was a little bit more antagonistic than fun, maybe. And I think if you know your audience, you know your family, and you want something to be fun, like irritation doesn't really feel that enjoyable to the other parties, you know?
Yeah.
But, and I mean, she said she hasn't told May 1st. We don't know if this is this post from like January 1st or like, I don't know how close to the deadline there are, but
I mean, the update was spring break. So probably March, April.
Oh, yeah. So this dad is like pretending these deadlines to try to flex power. There's no real deadline here, right? Yeah. He's just trying to be controlling a little bit.
Well, and to maybe circle back to him being the bad guy all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I think part of this is in the way he is communicating with her. So I don't know how much we've really talked about nonverbal communication. I don't think we've really touched on it a whole lot. But I think here, obviously, we're getting only his account and it's all written. So we are probably losing some of the nonverbals, but I can imagine if she's feeling like he's guilting her or she's feeling like he's bullying her, it's probably more so in his nonverbals. So like his facial expressions, the volume at which he's speaking, his tone of voice, right? If he's panicked, like, well, you need to tell me right now because we need to get this deposit down for your dorm. Of course you look like the psycho bad guy. Like, why are you panicking? If you just said, okay, I am a little concerned because we do need to get the deposit down for your dorm and that's due May 1st. But if you feel comfortable with waiting until the date you've selected, then I'm not going to stress about it if you're not. Like, cool, calm, collected.
Right. You're not like, oh, you're a bad guy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think dad could have, again, this is like, sounds like a confusing thing. He doesn't really know what her intentions are. We know now in hindsight. But I think even to say something of like, hey, it's frustrating for me that we've spent all these resources and I feel like you're purposely trying to antagonize me, like for a game. I don't really feel respected considering the amount of investment we had. You know, I think he could have even clarified a little bit. I don't know if, you know, there is like obviously a big age difference there and that's a power differential going on. So I don't know how kind of transparent, but given that, I think if he was a little bit more maybe communicative in his response, that would have given her a better spot to make this more fun for everybody as well. You know? Yeah. And you're right with those nonverbals. I think even dads are inclined to like, well, I said something very informative. It's like, well, did you come off like a dick? And I think she's probably picking up on that. It's not about what you say, but a lot of how you say it, you know? Yeah, you made a good point there. And even resistance, I was thinking too, you know, when we talk about, you guys will hear in later episodes about like emotional coaching and like a validation. And like, I think anytime that we join somebody and just are with them in their experience, just it's overall less inflammatory, right? So if somebody's really mad and we say, wow, like you're really mad, like that situation really upset you, that anger decreases, right? Or if like, oh my gosh, you're really hurt, and like we just join people where they're at. I think that's what people are mostly looking for. And when things get flared up, it's when we are in opposition of one another. So whether that's just like recognizing somebody's emotion or just like leaning in that like most people aren't going to try to hurt us. So if she's being playful, just you can also just be playful too, and like assume that the intentions are to be playful. But I think the more we find friction with one another about any kinds of things, the more the conflict that's going to happen, obviously.
Yeah.
It's like looking for things you have in common or looking for ways to join them in their experience if you're able.
Well, and even that reminds me, I want to say it's in Fair Fighting, where we talk about giving your partner the benefit of the doubt that they're not doing things with malintent.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just apply to your significant other, right? Your family members, if we have had positive experience with them, we should probably be giving them the benefit of the doubt. Friends, coworkers. I can imagine with like a 17-year-old kind of mood swings, and maybe sometimes she is doing things just to be petty. And so maybe it was harder for him to give her the benefit of the doubt that she was not being petty in this moment.
Yeah. And if what they say, she got into like 5 schools. She's obviously a pretty responsible young woman, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So if the likelihood of her fucking it all up to mess with them, pretty low. I don't think that's going to happen. I think she's probably going to take care of her stuff too, So
Yeah.
kind of like knowing your people a little bit as well there. But
yeah. Well, and maybe to his defense, we typically are not our best selves when we travel, especially towards the end of the trip. We're ready to get back home, sleep in our own bed, especially if they've been like touring a campus the whole weekend, right? It's probably been very event packed and not a lot of downtime there. And so that also means we are not going to interpret things from a best intent mind frame. We're just not going to be our best selves in those moments. And so
I mean, full empathy. If I was the dad, if I was the author and this happened, I'd be like, this little bitch. I would be mad. I know I'm coming off self-righteous like I wouldn't, but I'd be mad. So I can get why his frustration, and I think also, pausing never hurt anybody.
Yeah. I think I'm a why person.
So
I like to know why. So if she said, I'm probably not going to tell you to the end of the week, I'd be like, okay, why?
I can imagine I feel like a surge of rage. You'd be curious more than anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Like what's so special about the end of the week? Oh, nothing. I just want to do it when we're together and make a big announcement. I'm like, oh, okay. That makes sense. Do you want to help with that? Right? So that's just how my brain naturally works. Like a lot of times my clients will like come in and they'll say something and I'll be like, really isn't like the direction we're going, but I'm just so curious. Why did we care about that?
So like that's a really good. If he had been curious, she did say at the end of the week that was kind of like a gem that he could have poked around on of like that's a kind of a random timeline,
Yeah.
Being curious about people.
Maybe that's just my natural nosy nature.
No, well, I think that's part of like good listening. I think even too, and I think that comes from probably a concept of people make sense given their content and their context. So if I know somebody's content and context, I can probably make sense of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good point. So if you feel a surge of rage, lean into curiosity too, maybe.
Now, if they're not telling me why, then I'm probably getting really frustrated. That's where my rage is. I was like, why can't you just tell me why?
Yeah, like the withholding.
What's the big secret? I'm like, fuck it, I don't even want to know.
I don't even care anymore. Don't even go to school. Who cares? I'm gonna go to my own college.
Like, I don't care. Go where you want, but you can't stay at home.
You leave your bags packed. You're not coming back in the house when we get back home. Oh man, that's funny.
Therapists are imperfect too.
Yeah, obviously I wouldn't do that, guys. I just really want to do that. Oh man,
I think I'm lucky in that I usually get stuff secondhand. So like if for example, like my niece is doing this, like I'm either getting the phone call from like my mom or my sister, and so I'm already removed from the situation. So I'm like, they're like, well, she doesn't want to tell us. So they're like, what's so important about the end of the week? Well, I don't know. I didn't ask her. Like,
lame story.
okay.
Call me back when you have more information.
Yeah, I was like, well, you don't have any information about this.
You're like a little bit more, you're a little layers removed from this. You're a little less reactive about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like filter all of their stuff to begin with. I'm like, okay, I'm sure she didn't say that. I'm sure she didn't say it like that.
Yeah, that's helpful. That's helpful. This would definitely be an irritation trigger for me. I empathize with this because that would agitate me, like, for sure. Yeah, I think power struggles are immediately I feel the need to like kind of buck up and like get big, which I think is what probably a lot of people do, right? That's why we get into struggles. But I would have to be very aware that I was starting to get a little bit amped up, you know.
I think naturally I'm conflict avoidant.
Yeah, and I have the opposite. I have the opposite problem. I was thinking though, after our communication style, you know, early on in this podcast, I was reflecting on my own communication style, and I realized I'm inclined towards being passive with strangers and in public because I don't know what people are gonna do, and I assume, you know, you don't know who crazy or whatever, and I get caught off guard. I'm likely to be agreeable and friendly, but like if I know you pretty well or like we're chill, I do not have issues with conflict to a point where I should probably have more issues with conflict, but not really that bad. I'm pretty chill most of the time, but. Okay, so who was the asshole in this situation?
I think for sure Dad is an asshole. Mom, I'm going to say Mom is an asshole. She was removed from this. She was at home with the kids and she still co-signed the bullshit. So I think she gets, I mean, we don't know what was going on for her at home. If she was worried, what was going on for her mentally. But you had an opportunity to maybe defuse this bomb.
Yeah.
And you didn't do that. You added to it. So you're getting a little bit of asshole cred here also.
They both immediately teamed up against her, against the daughter. Yeah. Yep.
And then the 17-year-old, I'm going to say is not an asshole because I think all of her incorrect behavior can actually be attributed to being 17.
I think it was like playfulness is what she was going for. Talk about intentions, right? I think she's being playful.
I think she had good intentions. Dad responded poorly. She reacted to that poor response with her own poor response.
Yeah.
But again, she's 17. Would we really expect a different behavior? Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
So I'll let her skate on this one.
Okay. It's very generous. That's good.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I think Dad is the asshole because I think he needed a little bit more space to step back and to realize I'm getting caught. I'm letting her poke at me. And I need to be the adult and take a step back and realize there isn't any urgency here. And the mom too. I think the mom could have been like, okay, no, not a big deal, man. Don't play like she's messing with you. You see that, right? Like she's messing with you. I think that she could have done that too. I mean, I would have liked for the 17-year-old daughter. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit more, I don't know, just this kind of playfulness. I don't really like love this going on because I think overt button pushing does not do well for relationships. So I think she needed to know her audience a little bit. Again, I think there's a way to create like excitement and playfulness without agitating somebody, and especially if they feel disrespected of like, I've invested all of these things. Like, this is not a game I'm having fun playing right now. So I would like for her to see maybe better communication if you want to have a surprise to go about that in a different way. But again, age appropriate. I think it was playfulness. And I think if Dad had taken a step back, that would have gone okay.
Yeah.
Is my thing overall there.
Based on Mom and Dad's communication, I don't know if she's really learned other ways to communicate.
I think you're probably right. Where again, if Dad had said, hey, I get that you're being playful. This is a really big thing that you're doing. And also like, this is kind of agitating to me. If you want to have a surprise, I'd like a little bit different way that this is approached, you know?
So communications are learned. We're not just born knowing how to be assertive. So if you feel like your kids are not assertively communicating with you, take a look in the mirror. You may not be assertively communicating with them.
Oh, snap, yo. Yeah.
We mirror
yeah,
other people's communication. And so if I go into a room and somebody's yelling and screaming at me, my instinct is to yell and scream back or to leave. And so it takes work to sit there and not yell and scream back and stay in that room and be uncomfortable, because my natural instinct is to match their energy. Our natural instincts are to mirror. So if your kids are not mirroring appropriate communication, it may be because we are not appropriately demonstrating that for them to learn from us.
Totally. That's a good point. Summarize for us.
Yes.
This post.
We learned that it is easy to get into power struggles and fall into kind of petty, I call them like pettiness traps. Because we do tend to mirror other people. So if one person is trying to assert power, our natural instinct is to get on our hind legs like a bear and roar back. When we are in conflict or resistance or any type of friction, we have options. We can sit there and just keep pushing the wall in the opposite direction of them and nobody gets anything resolved. We can walk away from the issue. If it's really not that big of an issue, we can choose our battles, so to speak, and say, this is not a battle I'm interested in fighting today. You go ahead and push that wall. Or we can figure out a way to join them and push the wall with them. And that's going to be the most powerful. They're going to feel validated. They're going to feel seen. And they're going to see you as an ally.
And the wall, there's no need for a wall if everybody's on the same side of it, right? There's no division to be had.
Yep. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So we haven't gone into this a lot. It will probably be put on our list for season 2 now, but some nonverbal communication skills. So be mindful of your facial expressions, the volume at which you're speaking, your tone of voice, even the words you're choosing. That's the verbal piece, but I mean, words have power. So be mindful of both the verbal and nonverbal ways in which you're communicating to folks. Communication styles are learned. Those are the main ones. I feel like I missed something.
Because if there's a high sense of urgency, that could be a good time to pause to assess if there really is something pressing, or if it's just your anxiety or agitation creating a false sense of pressure, maybe too.
We call that emotional reasoning.
Yeah, because I'm stressed, there's an emergency, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, that's what we have for you on this one. As always, we would love to hear your thoughts. You can send them to us at assertivepodcast@gmail.com. Until next time.